What is up, everybody? As you guys can plainly see, I am back in my studio in West Virginia. And guys, I cannot tell you how amazing it feels. Now, for those of you who didn't know, I have been gone for the past couple of months. Now, not to say that I've been completely inactive on YouTube. I mean, I haven't been in West Virginia. I have actually been working as a quality control tech on a copper mine out in Arizona. And let me tell you, it is getting to be incredibly hot out there, and it is incredibly dusty, obviously. And so I can't tell you how amazing it is to be back home, be back in my studio. It feels great. Now, guys, if you watched my live stream last week, you may know what we're about to talk about. You see, during that live stream, I asked all of you amazing people out there in my audience if you would like me to watch and react to another Brightside video. And as I expected, everybody wants my brain cells to die once again. I mean, it has been a while since I've done one, since the last time I was home, I guess. So I guess I've had enough time to recover, but hey, why not kill them again, I guess. But, just to have another confirmation that this is what you guys truly want, I did a poll topic on my community section on my YouTube channel. And I think it was somewhere around 2,800, maybe 3,000 votes. I'll pull it up on here on the screen. I'm not looking at it right now, but that's what it was when I last checked it. And out of all of those votes, you guys definitely want another Brightside reaction video. So I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. I'm going to look at it right now. But for all of you, I am going to react to another Brightside video. Rest in peace, my brain cells. All right, everybody. So once again, welcome back to my office. This is the room where I film, watch, and react to all of the Brightside videos y'all make me suffer through. It's no one's fault, though. It's no one's fault. It's no one's fault. It's not like I'm blaming you guys or anything that I have to suffer through these videos. Anyway, so I have spent the past couple of minutes taking a look at Brightside's YouTube channel trying to decide what video I'm going to suffer through today. And I think I found it. You should be able to see my screen right now. Okay, so it's this video right here. How long the Titanic sank for. Okay, so just going off of the thumbnail and the title in the thumbnail, I'm going to assume that this is a video that's talking about how long it took the Titanic to sink and why it took it that long. I did a video about this a while back. Link for that in the description if you'd like to watch it. But anyway, so just going off of the thumbnail and everything, like, I have to say, they got a pretty good Titanic sinking model here for the thumbnail, or image for this thumbnail. I mean, the ship looks pretty accurate. The breakup is in more or less the right place. It didn't quite break apart like that, but we got the double bottom already kind of broken off, and there's other issues there if I want to nitpick. But anyway, for Brightside, it looks pretty good. They got the A-deck promenade correct. They got the enclosed promenade at the front. I wish I could do this without the video starting, but whatever. They got the enclosed promenade at the front, the open promenade at the back. Pretty good. I mean, I could nitpick it if I want, but I have to say, for Brightside standards, this thumbnail's not bad. It's not bad. Now, about the title. 10 plus little known facts that prove the Titanic had no chance. Wait. So wait, are we watching a video that says the Titanic had no chance or reasons why it had no chance? Or are we watching a video talking about how long it took it to sink? It's like the title and the thumbnails contradict each other. That's weird, so I don't really know what I'm going to watch. If it's talking about 10 little known facts that prove the ship had no chance, what are they going to talk about? Are they going to talk about, you know, things that really happened that night that added up? Like, the sinking of the Titanic was a perfect case of a bunch of small, seemingly insignificant things that added up into one big thing, being the sinking. Are they going to be talking about that? Are they going to be talking about rumors and myths? Or are we going to be talking about why it took the Titanic so long to sink? I have no idea. All this is already confusing. The thumbnail and the title are contradicting each other. But whatever. This is the video we're going to watch. I've already got it pulled up here in another tab, so we're ready to go. Guys, how long do you think we're going to make it before I hit pause? Okay? How long do you think I'm going to make it? How long do you think we're going to make it? Let me know in the comments below how long you think we're going to go. Or if you're watching this live during the premiere, let me know in the chat. I'm going to say 15 seconds, maybe 20 seconds before I have to pause the video. All right, guys, are you ready? Well, here we go.
When the RMS Titanic went down after crashing into an iceberg on April 14th, 1912,
Okay, 7 seconds. Wait. This video is 16 minutes long. I have to watch a 16-minute video. Oh my gosh. And we're 7 seconds in. I've already paused it. Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway. All right. So the reason I paused it was this right here. Okay. Do you see these people at the very front of the ship? And what the heck is up with this Titanic? How do you go from that really cool thumbnail image to that? Use the same image. I mean, sure, this looks more or less like the Titanic, but that other image looks so much better. And where are the 2 lifeboats? All right, wait. You got 4 lifeboats here. I mean, technically there should be another one right here on the side, but whatever. But there's 2 lifeboats missing. Where are these 2 lifeboats? Okay, anyway, all right. Okay. We're already freaking out. But okay. So the reason I paused the video, I literally just noticed that detail, is the 2 people up here at the very front of the ship.
when the RMS Titanic...
Yeah, these people, okay? So they're clearly making a joke or a reference to the James Cameron film, the I'm Flying scene from the James Cameron film. Here's the thing. On the real Titanic, that would never happen. Passengers were not allowed up on the very, very front of the ship. You see, this part of the ship right here, this is known as the forecastle deck or the forecastle deck, and passengers were not allowed up there. The only actual person that I know of that went up to the very front of the ship like this was a passenger by the name of Helen Candy. And she snuck up to the very tip of the bow on the very last sunrise the Titanic would ever see. And she wrote about it in her journal, her diary, whatever. But she was up there by herself. She wasn't with another person or a guy or whatever. She just went up there just to watch the sunrise. So, okay, I mean, I get it. They're just making a reference to the movie. But this is confusing to people. This will cause people to think that this is something that really happened. The Jack and Rose flying thing really happened. No, it didn't. And there certainly weren't people, there certainly weren't people in like a bride and groom up there doing the flying thing and the, okay, Sam, we're only 7 seconds in. We've got a lot of work to do. Moving on.
Titanic went down after crashing into an iceberg on April 14th, 1912.
It certainly wouldn't have happened on the night of the iceberg impact. It was way too cold. It just...
Hundreds of people perished in the freezing waters of the northern Atlantic Ocean.
11 seconds. Another pause. 11 seconds. Okay, so this shows, right here, this shows the cargo area flooding. This shows the cargo compartments on the Titanic flooding. Those were in the most forward compartments. Here's the thing. There were no people in there. That area was mostly unoccupied during the voyage. I mean, it was a little bit of work to get in there. So there weren't any people in these compartments when it first started to flood. The first compartment that started to flood with crew in it was Boiler Room 6, I believe. The firemen had bunks in that area as well, and their room started flooding shortly after the collision, but it wasn't immediately. So, yeah, and then the mail room, that was the next area to start flooding that had people in it. So, yeah, anyway, this is wrong. So, 11 seconds.
One of the main reasons all these people were left to wait for rescue in 28-degree water, which would...
Hey, good job. Good job. 28-degree water, -2 Celsius. That's actually correct. Good job. Good job, bright side. Okay.
Water, which would all too quickly claim lives before that rescue came, was that the Titanic didn't have enough lifeboats for all its passengers.
Okay, so 26 seconds. Great. Third pause. The lifeboat thing. That is something so many people like to talk about. They love to say that if the Titanic had more lifeboats, then everyone would have been saved. Interesting theory, but honestly, no, that wouldn't have happened. Now, don't get me wrong. It is important for ships to have enough lifeboats for everybody on board. But here's the thing. The Titanic simply wasn't equipped to handle more lifeboats than she had. The davits weren't, correct for it, and they didn't have a good means of moving lifeboats around on the ship itself. You see, most of the lifeboats, with the exceptions of collapsible A and B, which were by the first funnel, the rest of the lifeboats were right there with the davits. So the crew didn't have to move them around and shift them around or anything or get them into the right position. They could simply just connect them to the davits and lower them over the ship's side. But you see, even with the lifeboats in these prime locations, the Titanic had 20 lifeboats. And in the 2 hours and 40 minutes they had to launch the boats, they only got 18 of the 20 boats on the Titanic off. The last 2 boats, A and B, had to be floated off when the ship sank out from underneath them. So if they had more boats on there and they didn't have a good means to deal with them, they didn't have a good means to deal with it. It would have taken them so long to get the boats into the right position. They most likely, they definitely wouldn't have gotten all the boats off Titanic before she sank. And the additional time it would have taken the officers to move the boats around and get them in the right spots, well, due to that time, probably, I'd say only 10, maybe 12 boats would get away before the ship sank. So it is important to have more lifeboats, but in the Titanic's case, they wouldn't have helped much. I don't know if they would have saved any more lives, because here's the other thing you have to remember, because I'm sure some of you are thinking, wait, they could just let the boats float off. No, they can't. In a situation like a sinking ship, those lifeboats, they get shredded by the water as it comes rushing in and everything. So yeah, it wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have helped that much, and people probably would have gotten hurt by boats tumbling down the deck. Yeah, now, the lessons learned from the Titanic disaster, adding additional lifeboats and, more importantly, engineering a way to deal with them, well, this would help save lives on the HMHS Britannic a few years later with the gantry davits. The gantry davits developed, they were basically electric crane davits. They were electric crane davits that made it really easy for the crew to manage additional lifeboats, and because of that, they got most people off the Britannic before she sank, so, anyway, but... moving on.
There were only 20, and they needed 60 to be able to carry everybody.
Good job. You got that fact right. Impressed.
On board to safety. As for why there was such a drastic shortage of lifeboats, that's because there had been complaints that the deck was too cluttered looking when they did have a sufficient amount.
Okay. All right, so as far as I know, the real reason why the Titanic didn't have enough lifeboats was basically because of the laws during the time period. And the Board of Trade regulations were out of date. They basically said if a vessel is a certain weight or size, then you need this many lifeboats to deal with it. And when they made that law, ships like the Titanic, ships weren't that big when that law was written, and they just hadn't updated it yet. And the other thing is, lifeboats weren't seen in the same way in 1912 as we see them today. They weren't meant as a means to evacuate an entire ship, to get an entire population of a ship into boats. They were more meant as a means to ferry people from one ship to another ship. And that's just how people thought of them. And this system worked out really well with the RMS Republic, a ship that sank a few years before Titanic. She sent out a distress call, other ships arrived, and they were able to get most people off of the Republic before she sank due to this ferrying system. They just had lifeboats go back and forth. And this further, proved the point that at the time they thought that they didn't need enough lifeboats. They just ferry back and forth. There was talk, I believe, about the deck looking or being too cluttered. They thought that there's some people at the White Star Line or Harland and Wolff, whatever, thought that the deck would look too cluttered if they had additional boats. I believe that was discussed. But I think that was an internal matter within White Star and Harland and Wolff. I don't think it was something that any passengers talked about. I could be wrong. If I am, let me know in the description below. But yeah, so anyway.
What's even worse, the first few lifeboats that were released after the collision weren't even filled up halfway, which could have saved so many more lives.
Okay, so the reason why the boats weren't completely filled up, it's just the way Brightside does this makes the crew of the Titanic look like they were just a bunch of idiots, which isn't the case. And I love how all these people look so modern, but anyway. The thing is, they were trying to keep the panic down, and they were concerned about the davits. The davits on the Titanic, they made a lot of rickety noises and everything, and the officers were concerned about that. But the thing is, they weren't they were trying to keep the panic down. There weren't a lot of people up on the boat deck yet. They were still in the early stages of getting people up onto the boat deck. A lot of women didn't want to leave their husbands behind because they were being told that the Titanic is okay, they'll be back on for breakfast, blah, 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 blah. But all of this was just an effort to keep panic down. And they were trying to launch the boats as quick as they could. They didn't know how much time they had. There were so many factors involved in why the boats were launched half full or less than that or whatever in the early stages of the sinking. Hindsight is 20/20. In that moment, you're acting with what you get. They put in as many people as they can, and then they lower away. But one thing to keep in mind is the two officers that were mostly in charge of the evacuation. You had Second Officer Charles Lightoller on the Titanic's port side. You had First Officer William Murdoch on the starboard side. Murdoch did an incredibly good job in filling boats as much as possible during the evacuation. But Murdoch was also the guy who was more open to letting men into the boats, and because of that, his boats launched more full than those on the port side with Lightoller, who basically made it his mission that Lightoller would launch boats with no men in them, even if there were no more women and children around, and he would just launch boats that had a lot of empty seats, even though there were men standing around. Lightoller took the orders of women and children first, as women and children only, where Murdoch on the other side took it what it meant. Women and children first, but if there were empty seats in there afterwards, it's okay to let men on. So most people that survived the Titanic disaster had Murdoch to thank for it. So that's what happened. It's more complicated than what Brightside was saying here, making it look like the crew was just idiots. Moving on.
Perhaps those poor souls could have been rescued from the bone-chilling waters a lot sooner if the closest ships passing by the Titanic's crash site had seen the flares and other distress signals being sent. But
closest ships passing by ships? You mean multiple ships? No, there were no ships, with the exception of the Californian that was right there part. It was 10 miles away, and it saw the Titanic, but they were just confused by what they were seeing. What the heck? There were no other ships that were close enough to see the Titanic's flares and rockets. They certainly weren't passing. Just...
Many of them didn't because of something called light refraction.
Oh.
This phenomenon could also explain why the Titanic's lookouts hadn't seen the iceberg until it was too late.
Guys, I'm losing my mind here, okay? So, they're talking about the cold water mirage, and that was a thing. The cold water mirage was a real thing that happened that night, and it did distort the light. That happened when the Titanic left the warm waters of the Gulf Stream and entered the freezing waters of the Labrador Current. That is a real thing. That did hide the iceberg for a while. But there were no other ships around the Titanic that even, with the exception of the Californian, which did see them, they were just confused. There weren't any other ships around that would cause that, due to the light reflection or whatever, that they wouldn't see it. Just...
There are others, however, who say that this was because of the fact that they didn't have binoculars.
Oh,
Long story short,
they didn't. The binoculars wouldn't have done anything.
Have the key to the onboard
Oh
cabin.
my gosh, they're going there. David Blair did... Okay, so the man who was supposed to be the Titanic's second officer, David Blair, he did leave the ship and he took the keys to the binocular chest or whatever with him. Binoculars wouldn't have helped that night. They wouldn't have helped. And I'm tired of hearing that. But whatever.
Cabinet where all the binoculars were stored because the only guy who had that key, Second Officer David Blair, was replaced at the last minute.
At least they got the name right.
And forgot to hand the key over. If the crew had had binoculars to help them, perhaps they would have noticed the iceberg early enough to change course and miss it.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't have been using it. They don't use binoculars at night, especially on a night with no moon. Can't see nothing.
The ship was also moving much faster than the speed it was built for. The reason for this was that the ship's owner, White Star Line, didn't want to fall behind schedule.
I'm about to snap, guys. I'm about to snap. The Titanic. Okay. The Titanic was actually on time. She wasn't behind schedule. They made up the time, the hour or so they lost due to the near miss to New York. The Titanic was moving fine. As far as I know, I think what they're referencing here is a supposed conversation between Ismay and Captain Smith, where Ismay was talking about having the Titanic arrive in New York a day early. As far as I know, I believe if this is just reported on by one passenger who says she overheard this. I don't know the full specifics of it, but I think there is some discussion if this conversation even happened. She might have misheard something, but anyway, here's the thing. The Titanic wasn't moving faster than she was designed for. She wasn't. She was moving at her normal speed. And here's the other thing. All of the Titanic's boilers weren't even lit. Titanic had 6 boiler rooms, boiler room 6 through to boiler room 1, boiler room 6 being at the front. Boiler room 1 was never lit. It wasn't lit. I think it might have been lit during the sinking to provide some additional steam. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, the Titanic wasn't going for any kind of speed record. She was not. She wasn't built for that. She was built for luxury, not speed. Deep breath, Sam. Now, Captain Smith and some of the crew were aware that ice was in the area. And Captain Smith gave strict orders to his crew that if any ice is spotted, let him know and then slow the ship down. You see, the night the Titanic sank, well, visually, from the view of the officers on the bridge, the night looked incredibly clear. It looked like they could see for miles around in all directions. But due to the mirage effect that Brightside mentioned, just got some of the details wrong, but due to the mirage effect, the crew couldn't tell that they couldn't see as far ahead as they thought. It's an optical illusion. But anyway, Captain Smith gave the order that keep your eye on the horizon. If you see ice, which is supposedly coming up, let him know and slow the ship down. Until then, we're going to proceed at our normal speed. They certainly didn't have Ismay, the ship's owner or whatever, yelling at them, go, 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 go. That certainly did not happen. That did not happen. That's a myth, a legend, a rumor. I'm tired of hearing it. Brightside does this thing where they make the people in the Titanic look like idiots. And it makes me so angry. We're 1 minute and 59 seconds in, and I just looked at the clock on this video. We're 20 minutes into the video. What the heck?
In fact, they wanted to get ahead of schedule.
No, they didn't.
Surprise the world to make headlines for arriving early.
They did not. Hey, did that newspaper just say fastest? No, it wasn't. They weren't going for that. Hey, BS Times. I know they mean for Brightside Times, but what else does BS mean? BS Times. I think that says something pretty good about everything that Brightside is saying here. If you want to know what Brightside says, read the BS Times. I think you guys know what else BS means, so.
Arriving early.
Works good, I guess.
Maybe if the Titanic had been sailing at a safer speed, it would have had time to steer away from the iceberg, even if it had...
What the Titanic was doing was not uncommon practice at the time. That's what ships did. They proceeded at normal speed until they saw danger, then they slowed down. So
had noticed a little too late due to the lack of binoculars.
Oh my gosh, that didn't.
Anyway, there was a whole series of unfortunate events leading to the ship's collision and the fact that so many people were left unrescued and their bodies not retrieved.
So there were a bunch of series of unfortunate events that did add to the sinking. That part is true, I guess, just not the way they said it.
So back to that question. One theory about where the bodies might have gone is that they were lost at sea. Only hours after the Titanic sank, a massive storm came over the ocean. The currents and winds would have swept many bodies up to 50 miles away from the...
Was there a storm? I've never heard that. I didn't know that there was a storm that came over the area. Most of the bodies from Titanic would have just floated away on their own due to the currents and just the ocean doing what the ocean does. Not aware of a storm. If there is any information on that, let me know in the comments.
Crash site. This could explain why the first ships to arrive at the scene didn't find them. But
no, they found bodies. They found bodies. They did.
In reality, the Titanic shouldn't have been on the water in the first place. Experts have
What? Wait. What?
now discovered that the ship's hull had been weakened by a huge fire that broke out during...
Guys, I don't think I can do this. 3 minutes in. This is a 16-minute video. I don't... Okay, like, seriously, this is going on record as probably being one of the worst Brightside videos I have ever seen. Okay, number one, okay, there was a fire. Okay, but coal fires weren't uncommon at the time. Number two, it wasn't here in the cargo hold. It was more right around here, just after the first funnel in the aft starboard side coal bunker or boiler room number 6. It wasn't a big blaze here in the front.
During the construction process, 3 weeks before the date of departure.
Wait. What did they say? What did they say? Hold on. Wait. What did they say?
Broke out during the construction had been weakened by a huge fire that broke out during the construction process 3 weeks before the date of departure.
What?
And White Star Line was fully aware of the damage that had been done, but they decided to sweep it under the rug.
What? No. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure when the fire broke out, but I'm pretty sure it happened in Southampton. At least that's when they first noticed it. What? No, the Titanic wasn't on fire weeks before, and how would that even happen in the first place? It had to be steamed up for the coal dust, for the coal in the bunker to ignite. What? Just... Anyway, that's...
As fate...
I'm really contemplating my life choices right now. All right, backing up.
Done, but they decided to sweep it under the rug.
They did not.
As fate would have it, the iceberg hit this exact weakened spot, tearing a huge hole in the ship, allowing the waters to flood in and sending her to the depths of the ocean.
Okay, so we're just going to use this right here. Okay, the fire was right here, okay, right around here, where I'm circling with my mouse cursor. The iceberg damage hit a little bit here, 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 a little bit here. Even if the hull around where the fire was slightly damaged by the iceberg, it would have only been right in this area. Nothing to do with any of this other stuff over here. So all of this area was perfectly fine. And look at what the iceberg did. And I mean, it's...
But they decided to sweep it under the rug. As fate would have it, the iceberg hit this exact weakened spot, tearing a huge hole in the ship, allowing the waters to flood in and sending her to the depths of the ocean. The Titanic made 2 successful stops in France and Ireland before sailing off to New York. On April 14th, the crew received reports of ice sightings from other ships, but the Titanic's path was clear and the sea was calm. At 11:30 p.m., a lookout spotted a 100-foot tall iceberg straight ahead and immediately warned the captain. Because the ship was moving at top speed, the crew only had 37 seconds to try to avoid a collision. The Titanic...
Okay. Okay. So...
It was calm.
What time did they say?
At 11:30 p.m.
11:30 p.m., huh? The Titanic saw the iceberg at 11:30 p.m. and struck the berg at 11:40 p.m. or 11:41, somewhere around there. And yet she had 10 minutes to dodge it, or 37 seconds, as you said in the video. So FYI, the 37-second thing, that is something that they actually say how much time passed between when the Titanic saw the iceberg and when she hit. But we don't know exactly how much time went from the two. You see, the 37-second thing, it came from sea tests with the Olympic. They did tests with the Olympics maneuverability, and that's where that came from. So, yeah, 11:30 to 11:40. Yeah, Titanic hit the berg Titanic spotted the berg at 11:40 and hit the berg roughly 20, 30, 40 seconds after that. Certainly didn't have 10 minutes, like what Brightside just said. We'll say that Titanic animation looks pretty good. Yeah.
A lookout spotted a 100-foot tall iceberg straight ahead and immediately warned the captain.
Anybody else notice the Titanic is turning directly into? If she just goes straight, she's fine, but the Titanic is turning directly into it.
Because the ship was moving at top speed, the crew only had 37 seconds to try to avoid a collision. The Titanic's engines were reversed, and the ship was turned so that it wouldn't hit.
Debatable. I don't believe the engines were reversed. I believe they were just stopped, but that comes from testimony from Lighthall that said the engines were reversed, but pretty sure they just turned the engines off.
The iceberg straight on. It instead grazed the ice, which punctured a 300-foot gash.
That's the original. That's what they originally thought happened at the time. That isn't what really happened. If it was a 300-foot gash, Titanic would have sunk in probably less than an hour, maybe 30 minutes. It was just a bunch of small little gashes here and there, or breaches. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Not a 300-foot gash. That's what they said in A Night to Remember. But that's what they thought back in the 50s and before. Anyway.
In the side of the ship's hull. After the impact, the captain sent out distress signals, which were picked up by the Carpathia, one of Cunard's ships.
Okay.
The Carpathia immediately sailed at full speed to the rescue while trying to avoid icebergs.
That's
itself.
true. That's true. That's
the
true.
Olympic was on its way to New York when it got the Titanic's distress.
Wait. It wasn't on its way to New York. I forget where the Olympic was going, but it was actually heading in the opposite direction. So, White Star, they liked what they were going for with the Titanic, the Olympic, is similar to what Cunard would later do with Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, or Lusitania, Mauritania. If one ship was in New York, they wanted one ship in Europe, and then the two ships would pass each other and just zigzag back and forth. At all times, they would have one ship on one side of the Atlantic. Olympic was heading, I think she was heading to Europe. I don't know exactly where, but she was on her way towards Titanic, in the general area of Titanic. She wasn't heading to New York. Titanic was heading to New York, but just...
Signal. It turned around at once and also sped off to assist its sinking sister.
It did go help. It did try to help. It was just too far away.
Unfortunately, it had to travel more than 500 miles to reach her.
400, I think, but whatever. Or was it 4 or was it 5? Well, Titanic was 400 miles south of Newfoundland. I'm not sure how far Olympic was. Just double check me.
Having calculated that the ship would only stay afloat for an hour and a half, the captain and chief engineer rushed to order an evacuation. Chaos ensued, and it took them almost an hour to lower the first lifeboat, which...
So, again, they said some stuff right, but it's misleading. It took Thomas Andrews about an hour after the impact to figure out exactly... No, probably about 40 minutes to figure out... Yeah, he told Captain Smith around 12:20 that the Titanic was doomed. But, and the way that they word this. So the way that they worded it, it was like the engineer gave the Titanic an hour to 90 minutes or whatever to stay afloat, but it took them an hour to launch a boat. It makes it seem like they were idiots, but no, that's just not. Before you launch boats, you want to make sure that your ship is in legitimate trouble. Like, you have to launch the boats, because launching lifeboats is dangerous, and they don't want to do it unless they have to. And it took Andrews a while to figure out the true state or true situation the Titanic was in. But Captain Smith ordered the boats to be prepped and ready to go, just in case. And then he let Andrews do his inspection. So it's like both men were doing things. The way they word this. And then once Andrews figured out that the Titanic was doomed, he figured that out roughly, I think he figured out like 12:15, and he told Captain Smith around 12:20, 12:25, somewhere around there. The Titanic had another hour to an hour and a half. So, I mean... That's what happened there, not the Titanic had an hour to live after the iceberg impact, and it took, or 90 minutes to live after the iceberg impact, and it took them an hour to launch a boat. It's just misleading. Anyway.
Which had only 28 people on board.
Wait, what? What?
Chaos ensued.
Chaos didn't ensue. There wasn't any chaos or panic until later in the sinking. At first, everything was fine and calm and peaceful.
And it took them almost an hour to lower the first lifeboat.
It was 1 hour. It was 1 hour to launch the boat. The first boat left at roughly 12:40. That is right. And did it only have 28 people on board? I'm not sure. But anyway, the way they're giving out this information is misleading. But whatever. I'm not trying to people on the first boat.
28 people on board versus the 65 it had space for.
I'm not sure about that.
In the end, the Titanic actually stayed afloat for almost 3 hours. During that time, families were separated as women and children were loaded onto the lifeboats first.
Did anybody notice this boat? Watch this. I'm going to rewind. Watch this boat. So this boat hits the water.
As women and children were loaded onto
up.
the lifeboats.
It's an animation thing, but it made me laugh.
First, as the law of the sea dictated. Ava Miriam Hart was only 7 years old when she boarded the Titanic with her parents.
I have a heart.
According to Ava, her mother couldn't sleep at all the whole time she was on board because she'd had a really bad premonition about the trip.
That's right.
While the Titanic was sinking, Ava's father ran to their cabin, wrapped Ava in a blanket, and placed his wife and daughter in lifeboat number 14.
I'm not sure if that's the right boat, but anyway, yeah, pretty good. That is accurate. Good
The
job.
last thing he told Ava was, "Hold Mummy's hand and be a good girl."
Is that true? I'm not sure.
Ava went on to
I know that's from the movie, but okay, hey, they got that right. Good job.
many things throughout her life. She was a singer in Australia.
They got it right. That's her. They got it. They actually got the right image. That's Eva and her mom. Okay. Nicely
and
done.
a very outspoken activist when it came to the whole Titanic ordeal. She even wrote an autobiography called Shadow of the Titanic, a survivor's story.
Did she? I'm not sure about that, but okay. I'll look that up.
One person Ava Hart probably had a bone to pick with was Joseph Bruce Ismay.
Oh, no.
Well, she and plenty of others. Ismay was chairman of the White Star Line,
Okay.
the company that operated the Titanic.
Okay.
He was on the ship that night,
Okay.
survived the sinking,
Okay.
and was rescued in collapsible lifeboat C. Upon arriving
All
in
right.
the U.S., he got a ton of heat for leaving the Titanic while there were still women and children on board. After the Titanic, he tried to live a quiet life out of the spotlight. He continued dealing in maritime affairs, although not so much with passenger liners and more with the British Merchant Navy.
Okay, so I'm not sure about what... I know Ismay did try to live a quiet life after Titanic. Titanic changed him. And he was vilified, by the media and the press at the time about surviving the sinking and all that stuff. I mean, they really went after him for that. But here's the thing. Ismay does not deserve as much hate as he gets. He doesn't. He certainly wasn't a villain. Collapsible Lifeboat C was the next to last lifeboat to be launched from the Titanic or lowered away. I'm not counting Collapsible A and B because they were floated off. The last boats to leave Titanic were Collapsible C, Collapsible D, and then A and B floated off. C and D were lowered over the ship's side. Ismay was on board the Titanic throughout the entire sinking, most of it. And he was always trying to get people to escape. Get off the ship, go get into a boat, there's no time to lose, blah, blah, blah. The only iffy incident that I'm aware of with Ismay was that earlier in the sinking, he kind of started to panic, and he started screaming, lower away, lower away, lower away, lower away. And Officer Lowe, Fifth Officer Lowe, got into a big thing with him and ran out to him and said, what are you doing? Do you want me to drown the lot of them? And Ismay went, do you have any idea who I am? And Lowe just snapped. And Lowe was like, you're a passenger and I'm a ship's bloody officer. Now do as you're told. And then Ismay, Ismay is Lowe's boss. And this was a sheer act of insubordination. But Ismay just took it. It's like that yelling at from Lowe snapped Ismay out of it. And he realized that he was in the wrong. He made a mistake, and he's like, I'm sorry, just do what you got to do. So how many of you could take it like that? If somebody, your subordinate, yelled directly in your face like that, and you would have the, calm state of mind to understand that he's right and you're wrong. A lot of people couldn't do that. I think that's a good testament to Ismay's character. He realized he panicked, and he let Lowe do what he had to do. So Ismay doesn't deserve the hate he gets. He certainly does not. It's not like he's Captain Scatino or anything.
Professional tennis player Richard Norris Williams was on board the Titanic with his father, given that the lifeboats, as many know...
Okay, so FYI, I really don't know anything about him, so if this is him, if the story is true or not, I'm not sure, so we'll let this one go. Just let me know anything they get wrong in the comments. I'm not familiar with him.
...were reserved for women and children. These two guys were left to fend for themselves on a sinking ship. They did pretty well at first, but once the ship had sunk deep enough to leave the remaining passengers floating in the water, a huge smokestack suddenly collapsed and crashed down on the surface of the water. Perhaps it was purely coincidental, or maybe something more, but the resulting wave washed Richard toward collapsible lifeboat A, so he climbed in. Unfortunately, that lifeboat was full of freezing water that passengers had to stand in up to their knees.
That's correct.
These survivors were later transferred to lifeboat number 14. But the damage of the cold water had
4 and 14 were the ones that came back to rescue people. Okay.
already been done. Williams got frostbite on his legs, and once on board the Carpathia, the doctors recommended amputating both his lower limbs. But the tennis star would have none of it, so he exercised every day and his legs slowly recovered. He
This does sound familiar. I feel like I've heard this before.
even continued his tennis career, became an Olympic gold medalist, and served in the Army. He later became a successful investment banker and president of the Historical Society of Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm gonna look this guy up, and if I'm gonna do some research, and maybe this guy will get a dedicated video if what Brightside is saying turns out to be true. See, this is the danger with something like Brightside. They get so much wrong that when I hear something that they might get right or is interesting, I'm always skeptical. I'm like, okay, is this real? Is this not? I don't know.
Why didn't people try climbing on the iceberg to
no.
get out of the water?
Oh, no.
Because it was too slippery.
Well, no
Okay,
kidding.
Thanks for joining me today on the bright
No kidding, Sherlock.
side. Wait, there's more? Right, back to our story. At first, this seemed to be an easy fix, but as I started to look into it, I found some logistical problems that would make it more like a
You have to do all the... Okay, so without doing all this bright side math, number one, I did a video about this a while back. The iceberg was long gone. You know, the Titanic moved pretty far away from the berg, so good luck finding it. Number two, it is slick. And number three, how would you even get the people on it? The iceberg was icebergs are very unpredictable structures. I mean, how would you climb it? You've got no ice climbing gear, trying to get all those people on top of the berg. Well, the berg could roll over, do the weight shifting, because bergs are unstable. They couldn't climb it. It's just... Anyway.
frozen nightmare than a frosty lifeboat. In the meantime, let's talk about slopes. Ice slopes, to be specific. You probably don't need me to tell you that an iceberg isn't just a giant ice cube in the ocean, but it's essential to draw a distinction between an ice floe and an iceberg. We'll save icecapades for another time. A floe, spelled F-L-O-E, is a flat mass of ice found drifting in the ocean. Much like icebergs, they're the result of Arctic ice breaking away from a larger shelf. But that's pretty much where the similarities end. A floe is low, flat, and relatively shallow, while an iceberg is none of those things. You may have heard the expression...
Don't they also call that field ice? Like big, flat, icebergs that are well, not, they're icebergs, but I thought they call it field ice, like ice that was very low like that, and you could just... Now, that was actually relatively close to the Titanic. I'm pretty sure there was an ice field like that had very low, flat icebergs. I think the Californians saw that. If the Titanic was around that, then people probably could walk on that, but certainly not icebergs.
Tip of the iceberg? Well, the towering spire of frozen water you know and fear is only a small part of the iceberg's mass. The bulk of an iceberg is found under the water, and this is the part most dangerous to passing ships.
Don't subscribe. Don't subscribe. Please don't subscribe. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Ramming into a giant hunk of
Subscribe to Historic Travels. That's the better thing to do.
Anything
Don't subscribe to Brightside.
never good. But when the damage is underwater, things go from bad to worse pretty fast. Ice floes can be hazardous, but the concern is that a ship might get pinned and crushed between two of them instead of sinking outright. This is...
Huh? How do we go? Okay, number one, what's up with this Titanic? This Titanic looks like a giant balloon. But how do we go from... I'm legit, no joke. I was thinking that this was going to be good. Talking about how icebergs are unstable and all that stuff. I certainly wasn't thinking they were going to talk about ice crushing the Titanic if they tried to put people on top of it. Brightside, just what? I don't
is only a real possibility when close to or within the Arctic Circle. The Titanic may have been
hold on.
and crushed between two of them instead of sinking outright. This is only a real possibility when close to or within the Arctic Circle. The Titanic may have been in the North Atlantic, but not quite that far north. No, the Titanic hit an iceberg. And if you look at any picture of an iceberg, you'll see that they can get quite steep. Sure, some might be scalable, but others are nothing but sheer cliffs of jagged ice.
Okay, there we go.
Best case, it would be like climbing a mountain. Worst case, a frozen cliffside. There are several images purported to show.
So, I don't understand why they would jump to the crushing thing. I don't understand that, because that's what happened to the Endurance, the Shackleton ship when it was in Antarctica. But why would they go to that with... I don't understand why they would mention that here. It's not relevant, whatever.
Oh, the iceberg that did the deed, but the most likely culprit is the one here. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't exactly strike me as an easy climb.
The photos saying, there are a lot of photos out there that claim that they show the one that the Titanic hit, but it's debatable. It's all debatable. We can't say for certain.
Now, imagine trying to pull that off in the dark, using only your hands and maybe a bit of rope, and surrounded by over 1,000 other confused and freezing people. And don't imagine for a second...
Animation's bad, but yeah, I mean, it's impossible.
...that it would be an orderly evacuation either. Remember, while the lack of lifeboats was a big problem for the Titanic, a much bigger one was the fact that more than half left only partially full. As the window of
we talked about that earlier. I mean, it was just the crew was doing the best that they could, and they were having trouble getting people into the boats. There was an issue of where the people were. It's just there was a lack of communication, or a lack of a real, like, some passengers knew where they had to be, other passengers didn't. The third class definitely didn't get the proper treatment that night because they didn't have any boats in their area, and they didn't know how to get to the boats, See, contrary to popular belief, the third class passengers weren't locked below decks during the evacuation. It was just they didn't get the proper attention that they should have, and they didn't know where they were supposed to go. Like the third class emergency stations, well, there weren't boats there, and they didn't know how to get up to the boat deck because they weren't allowed in that part of the ship under normal circumstances. But anyway, so...
opportunity to see the site closes.
They weren't locked below decks.
American company OceanGate.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Are we going there? Are we going to... Oh no! Is Brightside going to OceanGate now? Oh no! Oh crap! Okay, hold on.
Of opportunity to see the site closes. American company OceanGate offers...
Wait, what'd they say? Hold on. Sorry, I got it wrong again.
For a second that it would be an orderly evacuation either. Remember, while the lack of lifeboats was a big problem for the Titanic, a much bigger one was the fact that more than half left only partially full. As the window of opportunity to see the site closes, American company OceanGate offers trips down to the wreck. The first trip, carrying tourists, was supposed to head down in 2018, but the weather wasn't favorable, so it was pushed back to 2019.
I'm not sure all of OceanGate's timeline stuff, okay?
OceanGate has already conducted trips to the Titanic, but tourists have never been allowed on board.
What the... What's up with that? Just... Who edited this? What... And also, this isn't right. Did they have another sub called Cyclops that looked like this? I don't know. Had a big last name? I don't know. But this isn't the Titan. The sub that imploded going to Titanic was the Titan, so...
Dives to the Titanic have collected data, gathered samples, and taken pictures. Another company called the Bluefish has planned trips to the wreck in 2019 and 2020.
I don't know anything about that.
Submersible has a 7-inch acrylic window to get the best view.
I'm certain that their sub doesn't look like this. I'm certain.
As news breaks that the Titanic is deteriorating, more and more commercial companies are bound to offer submersible trips to the wreck. If you think you can just head down and come back up the same day, the reality is a bit more complicated. The journey to the wreck involved...
I mean, it takes, 2.5 hours to go down there, and you're at the wreck site for a couple of hours, and then 2.5 hours to come up. I mean, it's probably a 10, 12-hour dive, if I had to guess, give or take.
an 8-day trip, which leaves from Newfoundland, Canada.
Oh, they're talking about leaving and then getting there, and okay, on the ship, I see.
Board a submersible made of titanium and carbon fiber.
It definitely doesn't look like that, and you can't have a window that big at those depths. What the?
After all, as you descend into the dark depths, the water pressure increases, and you don't want a submersible made of flimsy materials. Once inside the sub, you'll descend a distance of 12,500 feet to the ocean floor. The distance isn't so far if you were on land. On land, it would be like heading to your nearest grocery store. But when you think of 12,500 feet in terms of a vertical distance, dropping down into the darkness, the reality of it all might be enough to send shivers down your spine.
It's deep.
As you descend,
it's deep.
Bioluminescent creatures are likely to make an appearance. The darkness is so intense at this depth that sea life has developed its own way of making light. It'll take about 90 minutes to make your way down, during which time you
I thought it was 2.5 hours, but okay.
can go through all the stages of grief and panic. Maybe you'll start with denial. I can't be in a submarine. What was I thinking? This is too scary. Get me out. And then there's anger.
Well, I can guarantee you the sub doesn't look like that, but are you really going through all of these, like, denials and stuff like that? Are you really doing all of that? Like, what are they thinking?
Get me out or I'll scream. How about bargaining? If you bring the sub up, I'll pay you double. Perhaps even depression. Oh, what have I done? The window will crack and we'll all drown. Finally, there's acceptance. The sub seems to be all right. This is actually really cool.
No joke, guys. We're 13 minutes into this video. We're not really... This feels more like garbage content now. Like, they're running out the clock. I am this close to calling it quits. Like, this video is just all over the place. If I wasn't doing... Guys, we are 49 minutes into this. I have 49 minutes to watch a 17-minute video. I'll give it another minute, but if they don't start giving some legit stuff, I'm done. Like, I'm actually done.
Emotional roller coaster. The magnificent sight of the wreck will meet your eyes, and you'll get a 360-degree view of the Titanic.
No! Like, you certainly... Number one, that doesn't look right. The ship... there are a lot of issues with this image of the Titanic. There are problems, but whatever. You certainly wouldn't see the ship like this. It's so black down there, you can only see what's in front of the lights. If you come right up at the bow, you'll just see the prow and maybe the bow anchor crane, like, or the bow crane, anchor crane, or the bow crane there. Like, you'll just see the very front parts of the ship. You certainly wouldn't see the whole thing. Like, just, jeez.
Which you can enjoy for around 3 hours, depending on the submersible company. You'll be able to see the deck, the bow, the ship's propellers.
You'd have to go to the... Why is there macaroni and cheese? Why is it the Titanic stuff with the macaroni and cheese? Wait. Oh, hold on.
Propellers. The macaroni room. I mean, the Marconi room.
Oh, that's awful. That is awful. Oh my gosh. That is awful. That is the worst pun I have ever heard in my...
The wireless operator sent the SOS as the ship was sinking. And the cavern that was home to the grand staircase, which is now really famous. In addition, you'll probably be able to spot a few personal objects lying on the ocean floor, mostly shoes and bags that belong to the Titanic's passengers. So what would a modern-day Titanic scenario look like? Well, a good example might be what happened during the 2012 Costa...
Is that Costa Concordia? Oh. Okay.
The Concordia disaster. Sure, this shipwreck occurred in the warm waters of the Mediterranean, and the Concordia struck a rock rather than an iceberg. But the aftermath was sailing...
No! It was sailing past... I mean, it hit a rock, but it was sailing past an island. It certainly wasn't one giant rock out there in the middle of nowhere, and it was an underwater rock. It came in too close to an island. Was it Julio, I think? Anyway, no, this isn't right at all.
That some comparisons can be drawn. The full story is as follows. The Italian cruise ship was passing close to the island of Giglio when it collided with the edge of an underwater plateau.
It didn't hit the front, it hit more towards the aft part near the engine room, but...
Believing he knew the channel well enough to navigate on his own, the captain...
You know what? Like, there are a lot of problems. Like, Scatino wasn't driving the ship, or he wasn't navigating the ship. But, you know what? I like to think that he pictured himself like this. I like to think that he pictured himself, just, yeah, I'm a cool guy, I'm navigating shit, man. I like to think that he was like that, and, this looks like, is this person giving him the finger?
There were numerous distractions.
Oh, it's his mistress. It's his mistress. They put his mistress in here. Wait. It's the mistress that he, yeah.
It was later revealed that there were numerous distractions on the ship, such as the presence of the captain's girlfriend.
Mistress.
Unlike the Titanic, the Concordia had more than enough lifeboats to get everyone off safely. Unfortunately, no amount of policy reform can completely make up for human error and poor communication, and failure to follow emergency procedures delayed the evacuation by more than half an hour.
It did.
By the time the order to abandon ship had
Concordia didn't sink like that, but whatever.
Been given, the Costa Concordia was already beginning to list so severely that the crew was unable to launch many of the lifeboats. When the surf settled, 33 people lost their lives, and another 64 had been injured.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
As bad as that was, things could have been much worse, since the location
Now she's sinking aft first.
of Concordia's collision did the passengers and crew a number of unexpected favors. For starters, they were within sight of land when the accident happened. This meant that help arrived reasonably quickly.
They weren't within sight of land. They were right beside an island. That's what kept the ship from sinking all the way. It basically beached itself or grounded itself.
And got around to sending his SOS.
Ugh.
In fact, with the help of their life jackets, many passengers were able to swim all the way to solid ground. No one would be swimming very far if they'd struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic. When the Titanic sank, it was about 400 miles.
Is that how Titanic broke in two, huh? That's how Titanic broke in two, right? Okay.
Miles from dry land, and the water was a freezing 28 degrees.
At least that part's right.
The good news is that in the modern world, things might never have gotten to that point. If the Titanic had struck the iceberg today, the Coast Guard would have deployed a small fleet of boats and helicopters to assist in the evacuation. Not just that, but every ship in the area would have made a beeline for their coordinates the moment that SOS message went out.
Yeah, that's true.
With a competent commander overseeing an...
Captain Smith was a good commander. I hate it when people do that. Captain Smith did the best job that he could given the circumstances. Watch my Captain Smith series, link in the description. But, Captain Smith was a great captain. He did the best job he could. I hate it when people try to...
Organized evacuation. This modern Titanic might not be considered a disaster at all.
Oh. Wait, no. They're still calling Captain Smith an idiot. Okay, forget it. Yeah.
On the other hand, Costa Concordia shows what can happen when safety precautions are ignored.
56 minutes. 56 minutes. Well, that was something. No joke, guys. I think that was the worst Bright Side video I have ever seen. Like, no joke, that was the worst. I mean, the video was all over the place. There were so many things that were wrong. So many things that, like, even though they gave correct information, the way they worded it would give the wrong idea. I mean, no joke, it's awful. Like, even the stuff that they did get right, as I've said before, it's jumbled in with so much nonsense that, it would give you the wrong idea. It would give you the wrong idea. I think what made this video worse was the fact that it was so long. Why did I pick a 16-minute video to watch? Jeez Louise. Anyway, guys, bottom line, don't watch Brightside. Their content isn't any better. Yeah. Well, that's all I have to say about that. So anyway, guys, that's it for this Bright Side reaction video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave it a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. And guys, please subscribe. You know, that will help me, I lost brain cells for you guys, so please like this video and please subscribe. That will help me deal with the loss of my brain cells. So, anyway, guys, thank you all so much for being here. I hope you'll join me in my next official Historic Travels video. I've got some really cool stuff in the works. Empress of Ireland is nearing completion. But yeah, I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all take care. Special thanks to my captain level Patreon supporter, Tammy Lee. Thank you so much for all the support.